The Himalayas, a name that echoes with adventure, the highest mountains on Earth, a formidable barrier of rock and ice, home to a scattering of villages hidden away from the modern world. These villages hold a powerful allure for explorers and dreamers alike. Many adventurers are drawn to the challenge of the peaks. They seek to conquer the giants that pierce the sky. Others, though, are captivated by a different kind of challenge. They seek to uncover the secrets hidden within the valleys and plateaus. These are the explorers who look beyond the obvious. They search for the soul of the Himalayas. So I set out to explore the hidden villages of the Himalayas, to witness the raw beauty of the natural world. My journey began where the roads ended. The air thinned and the landscape shifted dramatically. Gone were the bustling towns and manicured fields. In their place, a wilder world unfolded. Towering peaks clawed at the sky, their snowy summits gleaming in the sun. Deep gorges cut through the earth, their depths echoing with the roar of unseen rivers. The trails were narrow and treacherous. They snaked their way through dense forests and across high mountain passes. The air grew colder with every step, and the silence was broken only by the crunch of snow beneath my feet. Tiny villages clung precariously to the slopes, their houses built from stone and wood. Smoke curled from chimneys, painting thin trails against the brilliant blue sky. These were the places I'd come to see. Reaching these villages was like stepping back in time. Life here moved at a different pace, dictated by the rhythms of nature. The villagers welcomed me with open arms, curious about my journey and eager to share their way of life. They lived in harmony with the mountains, their lives intertwined with the seasons and the elements. Inside, they were warm and inviting, filled with the aroma of yak butter tea and burning juniper wood. Life here was simple, but it was also rich in tradition and culture. These villages were living testaments to the resilience of the human spirit. The air grew noticeably cooler as I crossed the invisible threshold. It was more than just altitude. It felt like stepping into a different world. The sun, though still fiercely bright, felt different here. Its rays filtered through the prism of the thin mountain air. The path, barely a track worn by generations of feet and hooves, snaked its way upwards. Towering pines and cedars lined the route, their branches heavy with snow. The scent of pine needles and damp earth filled the air, a heady mix that was both invigorating and strangely calming. As I climbed, the sounds of civilization faded behind me. It was a stark reminder of the raw, untamed beauty that lay ahead. The Himalayas are a landscape painted on a colossal scale. Vast valleys unfolded below me, carved by millennia of glacial activity. Rivers, swollen with meltwater from the heights above, roared and tumbled their way through the valleys. Above, the peaks themselves pierced the sky, their snow-capped summits gleaming under a sky of the most intense blue. The play of light and shadow on their flanks created an ever-changing tapestry of textures and hues. Lush rhododendron forests, their vibrant blooms a stark contrast to the stark backdrop of the mountains, gave way to alpine meadows carpeted in wildflowers. The air buzzed with the sound of insects, their tiny lives playing out against this backdrop of grandeur. It was a humbling experience, a reminder of the sheer power and diversity of the natural world. There's a peculiar kind of silence that descends in the higher elevations of the Himalayas. It's not just the absence of human noise, it's a deeper, more profound stillness that seems to permeate everything. It's the silence of ancient rock and ice, of winds that have whispered across these peaks for centuries. Yet within this silence there are echoes, the distant rumble of an avalanche, a stark reminder of the power that slumbers beneath the serene beauty, the shrill whistle of a Himalayan marmot keeping watch from its rocky perch, the faint tinkling of bells carried on the wind from a village hidden somewhere in the folds of the mountains. It was a world that held me captive with its stark beauty and its whispered promises of adventure. The villages themselves seemed to grow organically from the landscape. Built from local stone and wood, they blended seamlessly into the hillside. Their roofs, often adorned with colorful prayer flags, seemed to dance and flutter in the ever-present breeze. The houses, clustered close for warmth and mutual support, were connected by narrow, winding lanes. These weren't roads for vehicles, these were paths for people and for the yaks and donkeys that shared their lives. Each village had its own unique character, its own rhythm dictated by the seasons and the terrain. Some clung precariously to steep slopes, their fields carved into improbable terraces that spoke of generations of backbreaking labor. Towering above everything were the mountains themselves. They were ever-present, their snow-capped peaks often hidden behind veils of cloud, only to emerge again in moments of breathtaking clarity. They were more than just geographical features, they were guardians, protectors, and deities in their own right. The villagers venerated the mountains, acknowledging their power and their capricious nature. Offerings were made at small shrines adorned with prayer wheels and colorful prayer flags. Stories and legends about the mountains were passed down through generations, tales of deities and demons, of mythical creatures and hidden valleys. The air in the Himalayas is unlike any other. Thin and crisp, it carries the scent of pine needles, wildflowers and snow. It has a clarity that sharpens the senses, making the colors seem more vivid, the sounds more distinct. At these altitudes, the sky takes on a deeper hue, a vibrant blue that is almost impossible to capture in photographs. Clouds, when they do form, seem closer, their shapes constantly shifting in the winds that whip across the peaks. Sunrise and sunset are spectacular events, painting the mountains in fiery hues of orange, red and purple. One morning I awoke to find the entire valley shrouded in mist, creating an ethereal, almost mystical atmosphere. Despite the harsh conditions, life found a way to flourish in the Himalayas. Forests of rhododendrons, their blossoms ranging in color from pale pink to deep crimson, clung to the lower slopes. Higher up, alpine meadows exploded in a riot of color during the brief summer months, a dazzling display of wildflowers in every hue imaginable. Birdsong filled the air, a chorus of chirps, whistles and calls that echoed through the valleys. Occasionally I would catch a glimpse of a startled deer bounding through the undergrowth, or a herd of wild goats picking their way across a rocky scree slope. Even the rocks themselves seemed to come alive with color, minerals creating streaks of ochre, red and green on the sheer rock faces. Life in these hidden villages pulsed to a different rhythm, one dictated by the seasons and the unforgiving terrain. The villagers lived in a world where time seemed to move both faster and slower. Faster, in the sense that the days were long and filled with hard work, the sun setting early behind the towering peaks. Slower, in the way that generations had lived and died in these valleys, their lives etched into the landscape as surely as the trails they walked. Men and women, their faces weathered by the sun and wind, moved with a quiet purpose. They worked with the land, not against it, their lives inextricably intertwined with the rhythms of nature. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the snow-capped peaks in hues of orange and purple, a sense of peace settled over the village. Despite their isolation, these villages were far from culturally barren. In fact, it was here, in these high-altitude enclaves, that ancient traditions had been preserved, passed down through generations like precious heirlooms. The villagers' lives were steeped in rituals and beliefs that were intimately connected to their environment. Prayer flags, strung across valleys and adorning rooftops, fluttered in the wind, their colorful squares printed with mantras and prayers. One evening, I was invited to witness a local festival. Traditional music filled the air, the melodies both haunting and strangely uplifting. As I watched the villagers dance and sing, their faces lit by the flickering light of the bonfire, I felt a profound sense of connection. Despite the harshness of their environment, the villagers I encountered possessed a warmth and generosity that was truly humbling. Hospitality wasn't just a courtesy here, it was a way of life, a deeply ingrained cultural value. Even in these remote villages where resources were scarce, I was always welcomed with open arms and a generosity that knew no bounds. Food, simple but nourishing, would be shared freely, often accompanied by stories and laughter that transcended language barriers. It was a stark reminder that true hospitality knows no bounds, that even in the most remote corners of the world, human kindness can flourish. The sun was just beginning to dip below the jagged peaks, casting long shadows across the valley when I met him. He was a young shepherd, barely a man, tending to a flock of sheep on a steep slope overlooking the village. His face, weathered beyond his years, held a seriousness that contrasted with the mischievous glint in his eyes. He spoke no English, and my Nepali was rudimentary at best, but with gestures and smiles we managed to communicate. As the last rays of sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, he began to sing. His voice, clear and strong, echoed across the valley, a haunting melody that seemed to rise from the very earth itself. In another village, nestled high in a valley carpeted in wildflowers, I met an old woman who taught me a profound lesson in contentment. She lived alone, in a small stone house perched on the edge of the village, her only companions a few chickens and a toothless dog. Her face, a roadmap of wrinkles etched by time and the harsh mountain sun, lit up with a smile as I approached. She spoke no English, but her eyes twinkled with a wisdom that transcended language. She invited me into her home, offering me a seat on a low stool and a bowl of steaming rice porridge. As we sat together, the only sound the crackling of the fire and the gentle clanging of her prayer wheel, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Here in this simple dwelling, surrounded by the raw beauty of the Himalayas, I realized that happiness wasn't about material possessions or worldly success. It was about finding contentment in the present moment, in the simple act of sharing a meal and a smile with a stranger. One of the most striking things about the people I met in the Himalayas was the way their faces reflected their lives. Every wrinkle, every line told a story of hardship, resilience, and an enduring connection to the land. Their eyes, often narrowed against the glare of the sun and the wind, held a depth of wisdom and experience that was both humbling and inspiring. There was the village elder, his face a roadmap of wrinkles, who told me stories of his youth, of encounters with snow leopards and yeti, his voice barely a whisper, but his eyes blazing with the fire of a life fully lived. There was the young mother, her face weathered but beautiful, who carried her child on her back as she worked in the fields, her strength and determination evident in every movement. And there were the children, their faces often smeared with dirt, but their smiles as bright as the prayer flags that fluttered in the wind. They were the future of these villages, their laughter a reminder that even in the face of adversity, hope and joy could flourish. Leaving the Himalayas was bittersweet. The descent felt swifter, each step carrying me further from the serenity of the high peaks. The air grew thicker, the sounds of civilization more insistent, as if the modern world was impatient to reclaim me, but I carried a part of the mountains with me, a quiet echo in my heart. The faces of the people I met stayed with me. The weathered smiles, the eyes that held the wisdom of generations, the quiet dignity of lives lived in harmony with nature. I thought of the shepherd's song, the old woman's quiet contentment, the children's laughter echoing through the mountain air. These memories became talismans, reminders of a simpler, more profound way of life. Back in the lowlands, amidst the clamor and chaos, the Himalayas seemed like a distant dream. But the experience had changed me. The mountains had a way of stripping away the superfluous, revealing what truly mattered. I had gone in search of hidden villages, but I found something far greater, a reflection of my own potential for resilience, contentment, and connection. The Himalayas hold a powerful allure. They are a place of stark beauty, ancient traditions, and enduring human spirit. They challenge us to confront our own limitations, to find solace in simplicity, and to appreciate the interconnectedness of all living things. And while my journey through the hidden villages has come to an end, the echoes of the mountains linger. The Himalayas are not a destination to be conquered, but a place to be experienced. They invite us to slow down, to listen, to learn. They remind us that true adventure lies not just in reaching the summit, but in the journey itself, in the unexpected encounters and quiet moments of reflection that shape us along the way. So I urge you to seek out the hidden corners of our world. Lace up your boots, open your heart, and go. You might be surprised by what you find, not just in the landscapes you encounter, but within yourself. The journey continues one step at a time. Join our community of wanderers today. Hit that subscribe button and let's embark on this journey together. Don't miss out on the adventure. Subscribe now and be part of Wander Without Borders.